Okay, looks like we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. It's after a big new moon weekend, and we're all feeling a little bit frazzled and not quite sure which way is up. I've got two wonderful people joining me here today on, I don't know what side it is in the video here, just hold on. Oh, there we go. On the right is Patrick, and on the bottom is Anya. And we're here to have another beautiful conversation on reality and what the fuck's going on and why we feel so insane and why the world's kind of resisting us. Resistance is futile. So maybe let's just start with like a cap for what's going on in your world, and we'll kind of build off of that. So this is always a tricky one. Who wants to start?
Patrick.
Okay.
All right, hang on. I wasn't paying attention. I'm trying to share the stuff on my page. So. All right. What are we doing?
So just a recap of what's been going on, how these energies have felt, and what's how you're rolling with it.
Well, I've actually been handling the new moon energies. Have been okay. I've been really busy lately, moving myself into my new apartment and having interesting interactions with my parents, having them. I try to show my stepdad the fear, the latent fear that he talks about, but he sees it as, well, it just makes sense. This is just how it is. Like, and to me, it's just fear, but he doesn't see it because he's in the programming. So it's been interesting. I'd say it's just same old since I moved here 3 or 4 weeks ago now. So, and I've kind of remarked to myself today how much I'm getting used to just having everything up in the air. I'm forgetting things. I still can't find my toque because it's cold out here. I wanted to find my toque. I couldn't find it. I have no idea where it is. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what I did yesterday. I have no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow. It's really interesting, this whole living in the now thing, because your memory really does go. I mean, people want to blame it on my accident. I blame it on ascension. It's gone. I just live in the moment. I have no idea what I'm going to need or what I want from the one moment to the next, nor can I plan it. So it's been interesting.
So how does that feel different? Because people that aren't feeling that right now, that would probably make them feel a little discombobulated.
In one way, it's freeing because you don't have any restrictions on what you're going to do. Everything just kind of flows, and then when things happen, everything just kind of comes together all perfectly. You don't have to plan things. You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry about that. But in the same respect, I still have the shadow of my old self in me, and being unable to plan for things, like, oh, well, what if this happens, or what if this happens? And you're just like, no, just, and you push all those thoughts out of your head because, it's all going to work out because that's how it is when you're in that space. So.
Beautiful. So it's a calm space. It's a not expecting space. You're not easily disappointed. You're not, because
right. Well, that's it, because I live my life with no expectations. So whatever happens. Like I desire and want certain things. If I don't get them, whatever, I'm having fun regardless. It's all fun. I'm here for the experience. I'm more connected to the energy of who I am than just being Patrick Perna. The personality is still there for sure, but it's I'm a lot more of everything else that I am than just me in this body. So
cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Sounds pretty relaxed.
Yeah, it is. It is very relaxed. Like cool. It's, you kind of, for anybody that hasn't got there, you basically, if you can imagine your life, what you work for in the old world, when you finally retire and you have everything paid for and all this, and you can finally relax and stuff, that what you feel your life is going to be like is what your life is like when you reach the fifth density mindset and you just kind of float around and live in the flow and everything's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the old way is kind of, how's the job going to go? How my relationship's going to go? How's the money going to come? Am I going to be able to go on this trip? Am I, like, just constant barrage of expectations or hoping or whatever, and then all this underline of disappointment and stuff when it doesn't work out that way, or things aren't proceeding, your
Right.
dreams aren't showing
Because
up, right?
you're constantly tripping over the next hurdle, planning for the next after that and after that and after that, because you're always living your life in the future instead of being in the present and just being happy wherever you are, and no trusting your energy is going to lead you to a good place if you're putting out a good vibe, right?
Okay.
Right.
So can you describe what shows up instead and how it's different or better sitting in this place instead?
You react differently. Like, I, for one, don't have anybody ever come at me aggressively. Like, nobody's been pissed off or upset or any kind of low vibe negative behavior, or what I would consider low vibe negative behavior. You definitely interact with low vibe old world people who are still in the old mindset of grind it till you make it and you gotta save and everything else. But you'll speak your truth and they'll understand things from their perspective, which is not as deep as where you can end up being, where I am. But they don't judge you, and my experience is they just kind of accept it, and whatever they have or think in the back of their mind, they're not going to say it. So everything is just great. Like, there's no things are simpler, and I don't know, it's just everything's just easier and better. And yeah, sure, there's lots of things I want to do. I want to travel the world. I miss going on the beach. I miss getting out of this Canadian winter and all this cold and stuff. I wish I was in LA like somebody, but here I am. So
Well, she shines her sunshine on us every couple days here.
exactly. So. Yes, point your camera. Let's see what the sun looks like, please.
I don't want to do that to you. That would be cruel.
So what I want to get underneath too is all these little lessons or things that show up in interactions that have a whole bunch more purity to them and just kind of come without duress. Like, maybe somebody will trigger you, but now you're sitting in this state of, okay, I'll take this trigger. What's underneath it? What's the thing I'm learning? What's the beautiful new perspective? I find that comes a lot easier in this place of kind of flowing and just allowing. Do you see the same?
Yeah. Like, people will come and things that used to trigger me, like I can't even think of something. I'm trying to think of something that's happened recently, but I know it has happened because I could feel it, where you'll feel the underlying trigger. So I'll feel the, for me, it always feels like this kind of background burning sensation where it's just, my body just wants to react a certain way. And I'm just like, no, because you can see the love, feel the love and the happiness just flows everywhere. And I'm just like, no, I immediately choose like, no, I'm not going to feel like that. And I'll be a certain way, or I'll just be like, okay, well, I don't enjoy this energy. I'll go somewhere else or whatever, or I'll say something. And they'll usually respond to it. Like, if they want to say something negative, I'll just say something positive back to them. And since I'm not giving them the energy that they're expecting, it's like, okay, well, they move on. Like, there's no crazy confrontations or anything like where before, where, I would always try to read people, and then I would try and say what they wanted to hear or what they didn't want to hear. And then a reaction would come and it would just escalate because my intent wasn't pure. I wasn't coming from a place of unconditional love, right? I was playing the game that they were playing, but using my empathy skills to try and one up them or get past them so that I came out the victor, right? Like, all that bullshit. So, and it's totally different now. Everything's really chill. Another way to describe it too, it's almost like you're permastoned, because you're just chill. You're in that place where when you're kind of like you're fried from weed, but you're not. And even if you don't smoke, you're in that same chill, relaxed place all the time. So
you're not fried. You're crystal clear. Your thoughts are
exactly
pinpoint, and your awareness is
and but your mind's in that same place, so it's awesome.
But it's not numb, it's just relaxed and peaceful.
Yeah, you still have your focus and everything. Like, you don't lose anything. Like, when you get stoned, you lose your focus and your memory gets worse and everything, but you still have that same chill, I'll just go with the flow feeling, like when you're stoned. So,
but that's truly what you just said, unconditional love, right? You're feeling it, and you're just letting everybody be exactly how they got to be, and there's no resistance to it, because the resistance is what gets you busy and frustrated and angry and stories, right? So
exactly.
beautiful.
And the longer you are like that, the easier it gets. Because in my life now, compared to 6 months ago or a year ago, it just gets better. Everything just flows. So
Beautiful. Cool. That's awakening
yeah,
at its deepest level.
exactly.
Yep. Cool. That's a hard one to follow on to. But Anya, would you like to speak of your experience? Because it may be different.
Yeah. I was there was like a good run where I was like how Patrick described in that flow state, but I guess like over the weekend and like the last week, it was kind of like shaky. Like I'll like catch myself in both spaces where I'm in the flow, but then like the old story will come in and then just like kind of like make me push the brakes on the flow, and I'm like, oh, what's going on, and so like I'm trying not to be in this freak out state, but just like understanding like that these are just old energies and just focusing on just releasing them more or as much as I can, and really just grounding myself and just like whether that's like nature walks or taking a bath or just being in solitude, um and having my sister move in, like I really worked out the kinks with my parents, and like our dynamic was really good, but now the universe was like, okay, well, let's just throw in these other ingredients. And I'm like, fuck, like I don't know how to do this right now, like, so I've just been hiding in my room.
But you're a superhero. You can get through anything. Didn't you know that?
I will get through it, I know, but right, it's just a little frazzling right now. And
Mhm.
but all of April actually has been like a very uptick month for myself compared to the slow chiller months, so it's an interesting navigation.
All those Easter Bunny energies and too much chocolate.
A lot of bunny energy,
Yeah.
but you know, I do you guys watch the movie? It was like in the 80s, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Well, that was a great movie. I love that.
I watched it the other day and I was just watching The Matrix. Like, I'm like, this is what life used to be like.
Mm.
And it was orderly and everyone was so identified by their 9 to 5 job. And like, it was very trippy to watch it. But I kind of like, I was like, damn, this seems like such simpler times compared to now, like with the unfolding. Like, there's always chaos now for people's awakening. But like, still, like, it was nice to see people asleep.
Well, it's so cool to look at it and then compare it to now and see how it was so programmed and imprinted, and now it's different and there's energies going in all different directions, and some of them you can see it in your parents. They're doing that old Ferris Bueller energy, or this is how the world fits and works. But meanwhile, everything else has gone sideways and sexuality's way out in the open or whatever. Like in a Ferris Bueller movie, it's like you'll see people in yoga leotards or women in like full body
Headbands and arm
exactly.
sweatbands.
But they'll be like outwardly sexual. It's like their body shape and how tight the spandex is or whatever. Where that isn't anymore. It's all this sexy clothes and in everything. I just see this like it just went on overload somewhere, and it was like sexuality was like raw, hard, dirty sexuality, where before it was kind of pure and flighty and
Yeah, that's a good word. Like, it just seemed like more innocent too.
Right. Well, because every generation needs to push the envelope, right?
Yeah.
Every decade kind of needs to define themselves different from the last. So things always get progressively forward. You know, it's like being the oldest child in the family or being the youngest. The youngest has it way more easier because the oldest had to originally break all those rules that the parents had, and then the younger goes through, and it's just easy because
Yeah.
the kids ahead of them have made the parents more flexible. It's the same thing with everybody on the world stage, right? Everything just kind of gets a little bit more. So this is what we find as sexy. Whoa! Now all of a sudden, oh, that's not enough because it's so old. Well, let's push the envelope. You know, a little bit more side boob or a little bit this or whatever. You know, like just to push that envelope until everybody's gonna be walking around naked one day or something. Like a little string across your shirt and crotch.
I think the shame has come up way too high now in this world that they would ever get to that. But it's so twisted from what it was. It's dirty and shame and affairs and in the back room and all this.
Well,
kind of stuff.
exactly. It's all forms of culture. People should be able to walk around and look however they want. It doesn't matter to me. And if somebody wants to walk around naked, go ahead. We shouldn't be immediately thinking, "Oh, look how hot that person is. I want to bang them." No, take away the sexualization. Let them be whoever they want to be. They're just a person. Don't add the sex to it, because maybe they're not doing that. They're just doing it because that's what they are. That's what they do to look attractive in their eyes, right? So.
I agree. So we went on a sidetrack there. Anything more, Anya, to share?
That's about it. Like this new moon and it's goddamn new moon, fucking moons. Oh my gosh, I feel them more and more stronger.
Yes.
Like as we go through this, and like I think I cried a little this morning. I just was able to release it, and I was like, thank fuck. And then I was driving, and I decided to scream at the top of my lungs just to get it out of there, which was nice.
Mhm.
But yeah, this new moon was
Fucked.
yeah, it was so strong.
It hurt a lot. For
It
me.
did.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, my new moon week started on Thursday with our last live. A lot of people noticed the energy and the trigger and all that kind of stuff. And I sat with it and I was angry and all this stuff. And then Patrick and I had a chat on Friday. I was not wanting to be here a whole bunch of times and a bunch of other things. And we talked about a lot about what we just talked about, the innocence and purity of sexuality and our desires and needs got all dirtified somehow through all this societal judgment. Everybody was processing through it. And then a lot of relationships that I had left me feeling really used. And we got talking about self-pleasure and porn and a bunch of other stuff that Patrick and I discussed. And that's been part of my life in my past. It was like the only pleasure I had left in my life because relationships weren't bringing it and everything I tried didn't work out. And I'm sure Patrick felt I was really, really, really triggered at that point a couple times. He said, "Thank God you didn't tell me to fuck off. I kept expecting it." Like,
Yeah.
Because he was getting so close to home and if you just keep saying it and it's like, fuck. So I made a choice. I stepped out of my self-pleasure and my pleasure practices as of Friday, and I'm walking forward in that. So it's made an extra deep edge to everything. And all the blame, I think it was societal, but it got projected on women because I was the receiver of it and their messed up perceptions of sexuality and feeling uncomfortable and shameful and hiding from it and all that kind of stuff came off with a tone against me, which it wasn't intended, but it was. So I had to sit with all that. Makes me still want to vomit. Lucky me. And then, yeah, all weekend, it was just like getting worse. And it was like sitting in this thing in my past where I'd fill my day with, okay, here, I'll have some pleasure or something. You get bored and there'd be this instant, okay, I'm going to self-gratify myself or whatever. And I don't wear it with shame because it moved a lot of energy. It got me through a lot of stuff, but now it's purifying all this stuff. And it's going in and saying, okay, what do I want in my sexuality? And do I want that to be physical or do I want it to be this virtual thing that's through the TV and porn and all this kind of stuff? And that was so fucking hollow. Sometimes I get to the point where my genitals would hurt or whatever, because I was just giving pleasure for that movement of energy and call it a high, like a drug or whatever. It was never that bad that it was pulling me so hard, but it was just like, okay, I'm going to choose to self-master here. It's like, okay, I don't need that. And maybe Patrick suggested it's behind why I'm not getting it in the physical or other things, or having this projection on women or whatever that all that stuff created. And so I made some choices and I said, I want better. I want it to be sacred. I want it to be pleasurable. I want it to be in person and that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what I'm going to draw in. And then crazily, I was telling Patrick just a while ago, this woman just friended me, texted me this morning, says, "You are such a beautiful man. I want to marry you right now." and all these hugs, and then I'm texting her, and that's exactly what she wants. And she's starting to be very vulnerable about her sexuality and how her marriage didn't work out. And it resonated with mine. My marriage was all fucky too. And we're talking about orgasms and all these beautiful things, and I was getting aroused. So I was like, I went back and I said, okay, I'm getting very aroused. This is beautiful. And all of a sudden this brick wall came out. She says, oh, I got to get to know you better first. Just out of the blue, completely vulnerable. And now all of a sudden we got to talk about our kids and our family and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no fucking way. I said, I don't jump through hoops like that anymore. It's like either you want that energy to be there and continue to flow, or you be honest to me and say, this is making me feel uncomfortable and we'll look at it, or I'm sorry, goodbye. And oh, I was so angry because that's what women do to shut the energy off. And then I got to prove myself, and there's no getting out of that because now you've failed because you didn't stand in your power or whatever. And so the very things that I felt in the past are now showing up in these beautiful little experiences of being in the void, like Patrick talked about, are showing up. And now I'm having to really stand in my power. And it really, really hurts. I was so angry when that came up. And I didn't get angry back. I just said, hold on. I said, a wall just came up. And why is the wall here? And what's going on for you? And it's like, oh, I didn't want you to make you feel uncomfortable if you're at work and got aroused. That's all. And it's like, no, you're saying something a little off there. That's your stuff, not mine. And I'm calling you out on it. And the price to be in my world is to speak truthful. And if it feels uncomfortable, great, because we'll talk about it and we'll get past that. So it's the new reality coming through, just like we've been talking about. It's like, okay, I will only get what I want if I make stands. And it feels like test after test after test after test right now. But there's no way I'm going to go soft. I'm going to go halfway. I'm going to let her off the hook and just say, oh, it's okay, darling. It's fine. No, because the intimacy is lost. And now I want to go back to that point. But if we can't speak truthfully about it, we can't ever get back to that point. So yeah, creating that new reality is holding everybody in the integrity of what you want in your world, calling them on it when they're not, even though it might hurt. I'll tell you right now, those people will trust you more afterwards than they will before, because now it's consistent and you're always speaking from that truth place and there's no little white lies in the middle of it, because that just gives permission for the other person to have a little white lie, and vice versa. And then you get off on this tangent and nobody wins. 5D is speaking your truth, even if it hurts. It made me feel ashamed that maybe I was being too sexual or whatever. But no, I look back at the conversation. It was like, we're talking about squirting orgasms and how pleasure feels and all this kind of stuff. And that intimacy was opened. You can't just close it off and then expect somebody to continue. No, it's like, sorry, I want to go back to before the, the floodgate closed and we can start again. So that's a lot of what the energies are right now for me, is really standing in what you want, pulling away if the energy doesn't feel right. You're kind of locked in a box with them in both cases. Patrick's got a little niece or nephew or something that stays next door. Is she still there? Or?
No, thankfully her mother picked her up Sunday night after her 4-day vacation.
He was talking about 4 hours at night. She'd be crying or whatever her head off, and he'd hear it because he's right next door. So
yeah, I'm not cut out to be a parent, and I'm being tested to make sure that I don't want to be around kids, because the old part of me wants to freak out and lose my shit when I hear kids screaming all the time. It fucking drives me up. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Do you want to take a side bet, Anya? Give him 10 years.
You should come by here. You will love my nephew.
Hey, if I could get to California, I would. The weather and everything seems so much nicer down there.
I witnessed how attachment theory really molds itself. I watched my nephew has anxious attachment style with my sister, his mom, and I just see it play and I'm just like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? It's bad. It's so bad. And like the dad, he's obviously still asleep. And so like hasn't tapped into his warrior masculine thing at all. So he's just like displaced cast aside. It's just like me and my sister and my nephew and their weird enmeshed relationship. And like he'll freak out if she leaves the room or anything. Like she needs to be constantly with him or else he'll throw a fit.
Wow.
Isn't that similar to, I think, what yours was, Patrick? Because the mother would just drop off and then...
No, my niece is the opposite, because I get the feeling that my niece probably spends a lot more time alone, because my niece, who's my sister's daughter, they're twins. They're both missing the same gene that usually clicks on when you have a parent, when you're, like for me, what I always thought was normal was when parents have kids, they're so attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of parents, if any parents are watching this, can attest to the first time you finally go out, after how many months or years or whatever it is, and you give your kid over to have somebody else babysit them, it is very hard to walk away that first time. Not for my sister or my niece. They will look for anybody just to get out, get away from it all. They don't have that attachment. There's something wrong with them. There's something missing in their genetics. They don't have that, oh my God, I have to be around them all the time. It's more like, oh, I'm so selfish, I'm narcissistic, I think about myself, and fuck, I'm hassled with this kid because I didn't make the guy wear a condom or something. Like, it's just a burden to them. It's not, oh my God, I'm a parent, this is amazing, like, that you should have. So my niece is very different. So, and that's why my mom helps her out as much as she does, because she knows if she doesn't, my niece might do the same thing my sister did. My sister ended up losing my niece when she was a baby because she decided she wanted to go out and party. She couldn't find a babysitter. So she put my niece to sleep and fucking went out and left her home by herself, baby, less than a year old. Like, wow. Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So, and my niece might do the same thing because they're very, very much the same. So we're all taking bets on what she's going to do, because my sister's been in the sex trade for years, because it's easy to be an escort and work 4 days a month and support yourself. We're trying to see if my niece is going to do the same thing. So,
mm-hmm. Well, we're seeing these examples of how the existing reality twisted simple things like being a parent and the energies that are involved, and not taking responsibility for your life, right? Like, okay, you chose to have a child in your life and you carried it through to actually birthing it out of your body. There was options for choices earlier on that you chose. So there's some authenticity in following through, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's symptoms of where we've been and where things are broken, and we're getting a chance to shine into the world something better, and hopefully make the next level of people more attached, or heal that thing that's stuck in them that allows it to be present, right?
To finally break that cycle and stop carrying through what's been going down your genetic line, right? Break free and don't follow break out of that mold and be who you are. Try something different.
And I feel that's a thing that your niece brought in, not something that you do because you're part of the same family, because I think it's a feminine thing that has to be healed, not a something.
Well, yeah, there's nothing I could do to help them directly. Like I was authentic to my niece on her Facebook page, and I ended up unfriending her because she's all about the image and certain things you can't say, even though everybody agrees with it and she agrees with it. She won't admit that she's still wanting to play and have fun because the love of her life just died like 2 months ago or something, and so she's ashamed to have any of the people on her Facebook or friends know that she's back in the game and wanting to play and going and doing whatever, instead of owning herself, owning her life and saying, well, this is my choice, if you don't like it, fuck off, don't hide it. But she's still old world, still plays with those games of cultures and has masks on in certain situations and all that other shit. So I'm out, just like I am with my sister. I don't want that energy in my life. So,
and I think it's important for people to be aware that as we're awakening and changing our reality, we're having this shone in our face all the time, right? All the people that were part of our life, our parents, our sisters, our brothers, our nieces and nephews, are all having their experience. And what's really important for us is to step back and just observe. And that's what you're finding over and over and over again.
Well, exactly. Like, because I've been out of my whole family, I've been out of their life for basically 4 years. So this is a month ago. This was kind of my first step back into it all, and nothing's changed. It's the same drama, it's the same games, the same cultures, and I'm just like, wow, I really didn't miss shit being out here for 4 years. It's the same crap. Like, so I'm gonna be glad when I exit it. And
but what you
let
speak
the
of
other
now,
one be.
you're taking less and less responsibility for any of that, and you're just allowing, you're just accepting.
Well,
And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
who they are.
Like, they're what they
Can't
are.
change it.
They're. I don't try and change their energy. They're not trying to change me. We all just speak our truth and accept everything it is, and it is what it is. You know.
Well, my mother decided to get the shot, the vaccination or whatever, sometime this last week. She mentioned it to me yesterday, and I'm like, I'm happy for you. That's all I could say. Anything else would have questioned her or her judgment or any of that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I'm happy for you. If that makes her feel better, and God knows what it's all got in it, or maybe it's got nothing in it, or whatever, I got to be happy for her. She made a choice that made her feel better. And she's now talking about, oh, maybe we can get together next month once I get my second shot, because I'll be fully immune and all this kind of stuff. So now all of a sudden it's like her world's opening by taking the vaccination.
Right, because that's the savior in a lot of people's worlds, and they're all on that Cartman drama triangle, fucking never-ending cycles. So
All my friends got it or are about to get it, and I'm just like, that's great. Like, I'm not even like, I'm happy for you. I don't even.
Go get one of the donuts and the stickers and walk around with it and pretend you did. There you go.
No, because then that would be not speaking your truth, right? Like, I mean, when I wear a mask, my mask says, "Do you really think this protects you?" Question mark. Like, because they're fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Well, with social media, you could just take a picture with the donut and say, and then people will know. What were you saying? No, I just went and got a nice donut. Isn't that what they incite people with? Is they give them a donut for getting there? I've seen that.
Oh yeah, I heard that down in the States. Yeah, there you get a free donut every month or every day or something if you go and get your shot from Dunkin' Donuts. That's
Isn't
hilarious.
that like ironic, because that is just like probably god awful for your body? So like you're just throwing all of these chemicals and poisons one on top of the other.
Well, exactly. That is the ultimate irony, right? Like, here, come and get some poison, and we're going to reward you with more poison.
Yeah.
Like, and people get on board with it. Whatever. That's your life, man. But to us, because we have a different mindset, it's mind-boggling and hilarious. Just like, okay.
Here's an alternate view. Let's just pretend that the vaccine doesn't actually have any of this other stuff in it, and it has actually been changed and nobody knows it, but they made them think all this thing, and then they're going to come out the other end. It's like, it's Regeneron, and everybody's been taking this thing that Trump took, and it's all good for you. They just made this whole fear thing, and somebody in the back end switched it. How would they know?
Well, that's it. Nobody knows. They're trusting. There's a huge amount of trust, and from them, that's their faith, right? That's their. They don't actually know what's in there. They're taking a leap of faith and allowing somebody to put that in their body, hoping that it's going to help them. So.
They know what's in there because they read the news articles.
Yes, exactly.
Fox told them exactly what's in there.
And everything you believe in the news, right? So.
Yes. It's not at all like the wrestling on TV. It's not fake at all. It's purely factual, and there's no bias.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get to that point. So what if part of awakening and moving into more 5D is to start switching your slant on reality, unprogramming the things that we call truth, and say, okay, in my world, the vaccine was never hurting people. It was actually a vitamin supplement, and they were just getting it so that that placebo effect would make them feel safe from a virus that isn't even actually killing people, because the statistics say it's not.
I'm all for that.
So that's our reality. Our reality
I love
is
that.
People are angry about the world, and they're choosing to be locked down because they don't feel they have any other choice. But if 1,000 people in every state or province just rose up and walked down to our elected officials' office and said, grabs them by the ear, not violent at all, and say, okay, let's walk to the statistics room and say, how many people died in this province or state? last year and the year before and the year before, and you're going to see some funny numbers. And it's going to be the truth that I've read and statistics show is in 2019, more people died than in 2020. And that was like full on pandemic. So what's going on? So then you walk them to the hospitals and you find out that they send everybody home that's sick, and there's 3 beds filled in the ICU, but could be anything could happen any moment now. And it's fear. And everybody's just chasing this, all these things that they keep using to say that it's happening. And then the test, it's like, okay, what's the statistics on the test? Well, 70% of the test is false positive. So really, did you actually have it or not? It's not positive. It wasn't actually designed for COVID. We start inserting that stuff into our reality. All of a sudden, that old lockdown that can't exist anymore. And to have leaders that lie to us or have an agenda or paid can't exist in this world, because I won't let that level of integrity. I feel like I won't take none of this. But how simple is that to insert that into our reality? And then we don't have to just drag everybody into our reality, because it's going to hurt a whole bunch of people to try and believe all these things that we think. What if reality is that simple? It's like, okay, Paul and Anya and Patrick here share a similar reality. We're talking about it. We're sharing it. We're saying, okay, question mark, why is this? Why is that? And then start saying, okay, wherever there's a question mark, I'm creating a truth, which is, okay, there isn't really a pandemic. It's just something else that's going on. There isn't a need for a vaccine. There isn't need for lockdowns. There isn't need for any of these things. And then how many people does it take in our reality? Not that we have to stand up and do it, but just in my reality, somebody's going and knocking on those doors and pulling them out and calling them out and holding them accountable. You want to know what families are going to do to people that are accountable for locking their parents up in an old folks home and forcing them to die almost from humiliation and whatever? People aren't going to be friendly with that. And in my reality, nobody has to get hurt, but people have to be accountable and they have to stand for what they chose. And then they're going to have to out the people in front of them that caused them to do this, and out the people until the whole chain's gone. And all of a sudden we're clear. And that's going to take some real crazy truth and reality, but I want it. I choose it right here and right now. You guys can choose as well, but that's the first step for something new to happen. To sit in the, I got to go be locked down some more, and I can't go to the store, and I can't do all that kind of stuff. It just eats you alive after a while, because it's like, it's so out of my control that I can't do anything about it. No, in my world, that's not going to continue to stand. It's going to erode from the bottom. It's going to fall apart, and something's going to change. Are you no masks and stuff down there in LA now, Anya? Or like half the US is completely no masks anymore, and there's no blooms, there's no craziness.
I am. The rest aren't.
I am in California. Are you personally?
Me personally.
Okay. So you're no masks, they are masks?
Yeah, people still cling on to those things.
Well, there's 20 states that have abolished them. Florida never even had them, apparently.
Yeah.
And then I hear the United Kingdom's opening up, and Australia's opening up, and all this kind of stuff. And then meantime, here in Canada, it's getting worse. The 3 variants are blooming all over the place. And then they're locking down restaurants, but you can sit on the freezing cold patio. Oh, that's Patrick. Or you can sit on the freezing cold patio, and that's still okay. You can go to your hairdresser, and that's still okay. You can go one-on-one workout, but you can't go to a gym now. It's like this crazed set of rules. He'll hopefully come back in a second.
Yeah. No, what's mind-boggling is like, if you're sitting in a restaurant, you're allowed to take off your mask and eat your food. But if you're not, you have to wear a mask. It makes no fucking sense to me.
You can't talk to the table next to you. You can't have even there's a plastic there or whatever, you still can't talk to them. You couldn't stand up with your mask on and stand within 2 meters.
Yeah. And the waiters and waitresses, they have like a double mask thing and like a shield that they have to wear.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
But somewhere in that reality is an erosion already, because 20 states are already out of it. So why is the rest? And it's all the news media and stuff. Oh, well, there's been a bloom at the town that I'm in. There's like over 90 cases. of not actually sick people, just people that had the test and it said that they've had COVID at some point or another. It doesn't mean active. It just means, well, and it's 70% wrong in the first place, but that's, anybody could go in there and stir the pot.
Yeah, and it's like we haven't even heard what's going on with this, like let's say the Middle East or even Africa. Like it seems like it's non-existent there for now.
Mm-hmm. No, the big changes, right? So choose our personal reality. The outside world is confusing. Everybody's got their own thoughts or whatever. In my reality, and hopefully the people that are listening to this are getting a choice to make a choice. It's like, no, I'm not going to stand for that anymore. I can't sit in this. It just feels like I got a 10,000 pound block on my shoulders all day long when I go out, because everybody's angry and they want somebody to be angry at, and they'll project at people that are in the light. Because why are you so happy and I'm so ignorant or angry? Or I wear a face shield only, and that triggers people because they're like, I can see your face and I can see your eyes, and there's something wrong with that, but they can't because the rules say that that's appropriate. So you see this conflict in people, but the rest of them are like this, and you can't even recognize them, and they have these eyes that are just dead inside.
I was gonna say, you know what I do like about the masks is I'm very socially awkward, so it helps me actually when I have to talk to people I don't want to talk to. I could just it helps me like fucking function.
So
Yeah, I think a lot of
behind?
people with social anxiety are loving the mask.
Yeah.
It adds that barrier.
Yeah, and it's like I could say something stupid and no one will know.
You're the bandit, right? Yeah. You know, I'm surprised there aren't a lot more robberies nowadays, right? Because everybody can hide, right?
So, yeah, no kidding.
But that's what also the whole objective of this is. It's crushing everybody, right? They're having to look at all their stuff, and it's all about them, and it's only about them, and you can't even engage with other people, so you don't even have people to project on anymore. So people are popping internally.
Well, that's it. That's exactly why. Like, that's why I love every time you're locked in. Sure, it's frustrating to lose all your freedoms and all this crap, but this is what's going to make everybody pop and wake up. It's whatever. Everybody has their own internal line. Well, if it crosses here, then it's going to happen. Well, that's what's going to happen. Life will make it cross that line, so it snaps you out of it, because the whole planet is awakening. Whatever it's going to take us to get there is what's going to happen. That's the scary part. Mm-hmm. For those of us who are already awake, we just kind of stand back and be like, okay, well, I'm going to sit here and just watch the show, because it's going to get crazy, because there's a lot of people that have their heels dug in, that refuse to want to change, and they're going to create a lot of insanity to wake them up. So
yeah, I feel like we all took this strange path, like our higher self like mapped this out before, where we're like, okay, we're going to do these things because we know that that's going to awaken you. And like I just look back at my life and the events that had happened, and I'm like, this makes so much fucking sense. Like it was all there for my awakening.
Mm-hmm. And we've been crushed mercilessly, and all these pains and all these sufferings and all these stories. And once you get in the void, all the little pokey things are going to come out that are going to trigger you in those last little bits that you can't even see yet. And then you get to make a stand, and you get to make a choice, and you get to say, be sovereign, right? So I think it's critical to hear our perspective for other people, because some people think they're insane having this like kind of double standard, and everything seems to be crushing you and opening you up all the time, and you're angry and you're frustrated, and that's what this process is. And we may not show it right here and right now, but we go, well, Anya talks about it in some of her lives, I talk about my lives. You go and you cry in the pillow for a few hours, or you scream in the car, or because all that energy has to go through you for you to, I wouldn't say purifies the compute, but that's where you're moving to. It's cleansing you. It's just releasing what no longer serves.
Yeah.
What do you want to add?
I really feel it in my gut. Like I the more I connect to my body, the more that's where it's really stored, and I feel it more and more there. And I'm just like,
exactly. And you're expanding. It feels good. Your body is no longer, because in your gut, it was probably like this before, right? And now it's kind of like, oh, is it safe to look out?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe, oh shit, somebody hit me again. And you just keep going until it's like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Right, until you're just flying or floating around like a sheet in the wind, flying, enjoying everything, and it's all great.
Well, you still run into flagpoles and freaking brick walls.
Oh,
once
for
in a
sure you
while.
do, but they become less painful, and you're just like, oh wow, that was a fun experience. Because
Yeah.
even if I try to stay away from using polarity words to describe things, but even unenjoyable situations, I'll still look even during it. I'm like, man, I really don't enjoy this, but oh my god, what a crazy experience! This is so much fun. Like
Yeah.
that's the where I am, and that's great. The fact that I can
Mhm.
enjoy unenjoyable things, like
Mhm. Well, and it's not about being all or nothing. It's kind of being that soft space in between. I can be a rigid sheet like this and I'm just in the flow and all this kind of stuff. And you hit the wall and it smashes you in half. Or you can be kind of in that flowy state in the middle and you hit the wall and you just kind of dance off and it filters up and down. But that's what it is. It's like standing in structure that serves you, but releasing the structure that no longer serves you. And then you become pliable, and then nothing hurts. It doesn't stick. You don't get angry at those things anymore. It's like, oh, that's your thing coming up. Thanks. Have a good day. And you can differentiate that. But in the old ways, it was like, oh, you're triggering me, Anya. You got to stop that because I'm not feeling good. And you'd feel like hell and you'd feel like a piece of trash.
right, because it goes back to Ascension basics about all is one. So if you're going to react negatively, you're reacting negatively to yourself. That's inside you. So as soon as you start to love everything and all the parts of you, whether you enjoy them or not,
Yeah.
everything just flows and you're great and you're the sheet in the wind. Everything's just awesome.
And it carries forward.
Yeah.
So I'm going
Right.
to put something out there. This is kind of hard to say, but I was feeling like a piece of trash today. It was just like everybody wasn't holding their integrity. They didn't remember the conversations that we had, and I had to defend myself. And it was like, well, my accountant was one of them. It's like, oh, we didn't formally agree that you were going to release it. Well, I said, claim this amount and then file it. And then he didn't file it. And I'm a month and a half later and he's like, well, it's your fault because you didn't get a letter and you didn't sign it and you didn't all these things. So I obviously didn't do it. And I hold it back because of all these reasons. And it's like, you didn't tell me any of them. So why is this mine? It's like, okay, I thought you handled it. That's why I'm paying you $1,000 for, right? Is go do my year ends. But then it was like, oh, now I got to protect myself. I got to get everything in writing. I got to do all this kind of stuff. Or I just let him have his little pity party tantrum and just walk by. It's like, acknowledged, I heard you, please file it now. And we're done.
Or find another one that'll work with you
And
and flows
next
with you
time
even
I probably
better.
will, because it's like there's some attitude going on there and I don't want to be part of that attitude. I want a nice flowy accountants and people
Right, exactly. One
that
that vibes with you. So
absolutely. And you're paying these people to get mad at you. It's like, fuck you.
oh yeah, exactly. Where else can you say that to your boss and then you're still gonna get paid? Like
Mm-hmm. But like you and I were talking about earlier, Patrick, it's like people get off on making everybody around them feel like trash or that they did wrong. And as light workers, I think we're the victim of that. Not that I'm a victim all the time, but we were taught to be that way. So I was stuck in that pattern in the past. And now we got to just be a lot more integral in the way we let people talk about us or to push back. It's like, oh, we had a discussion. And at one point he did give me a sorry, I apologize for, or whatever. But it's not about chasing it or persecuting people or penalizing them or any of that kind of stuff. It's just like, okay, I'm going to stand in the light. If you don't want to stand in the light and you want to poke at me, great. I'm going over here. I probably won't talk to you too much anymore because that's the only way. Otherwise, it's like, you're wrong and you did this. Oh, fuck, my energy is shot for the rest of the day. It's just like, okay, let him have his little win. Thank you. Bye.
It's crazy how sensitive the energy gets the higher you climb up this little ladder, and you're just like,
And literally by them being wrong, it's now that they're bad or whatever. And it's nothing about that. It's just like my level of integrity is really high and you're choosing not the same level of integrity. And now they got to defend their lower level because that was normal for them. Well, not my world, not my reality that I'm going to.
yeah, it's like everyone has their game that they're playing, and you're like, I'm gonna play this other cool game. I'm not gonna play this old school game. Like, I know where
well,
this
because
is gonna go.
the more we go up and we can become in tune to things, and you tap into that empath, you could see right through their games. Like for me, when I watch people, and it's just like they'll say this, but I'll also know as soon as they say something, I'll know they're actually the reason behind it and all that stuff. So then you'll say something that kind of calls them on, and you kind of trip them up because they're like, "Well, wait a minute, they don't know what to say or what to do," right? And that's what I love about the journey. But it also allows you to enforce to protect your healthy boundaries in your life, because you could be like, okay, well, I don't enjoy that person's energy, so either if they're not going to change, then I'm going to keep them out of my field, kind of thing. So
well, there's this beautiful place of the universe knows what the truth is, and that's going to catch up to him later, and you don't have to persecute it in the moment. It's just like, okay, have it your way, have a good day. Thank you. Yep. I love you. And that's going to catch you in the forehead, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to dish it out today, because you're obviously doing it a lot and you need that lesson, and I don't have to participate because I'm paying you. Thank you. That's how simple it is to step away. We all get kind of standing in our righteousness or whatever, that we're right and we've been in integrity. To persecute integrity or lack of is a nightmare. Most people don't even understand what the word is. So, but it's okay. We're trying to do that. So, okay. So let's go back to reality. So what's a reality you want to have yourself wrapped in, Anya? And we'll start with you. And what do you want for your world and for everybody around? Let's build.
I'm gonna actually address it in present tense, because we manifest in the present moment. So what I see in this beautiful reality is just true freedom, and people could be who they truly are and do what is naturally, their purpose to do and serve in this world. And everyone is just aligned in their own thing wherever they are on their path, but people are just finally, just releasing all that crap, the gunk, the struggle, the pain, and just like finally just like, I can breathe again, I can be myself again. And for me, I see, being I don't know, an inspiration, I guess, to help people on their journey. Yeah. And doing my creativity and doing this spirituality and like blending both of these worlds.
So just to expand, because you danced across it a little bit, what would you call is 5D freedom? How does it feel in your body? What actions happen? How is that? Because freedom's so mixed up in our world right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Patrick described it perfectly, where you're no longer allowing that voice to take the reins and creating constant stories and trying to live to these stories and expectations. And like now you're just like worried about the future or harping about something that had happened, like whatever. But you don't have those chords anymore. You're just kind of more present. And if you do have that voice, you're like, oh, this is the voice. Okay, let me come back here. I know I can always come back to this now moment, this heaven-based key to the heaven. I don't know. Just not worrying anymore and trusting that you're tapped into that abundance frequency.
And just to expand on that even more, would you call it an awareness to your whys?
Yeah.
It's kind of questioning your processes, your steps, and allowing some diatribe or past story or programming to keep coming out of you when it actually isn't yours.
It's not. And I think for me, for the longest time, I thought it was an external thing. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't me. But it was all me. It was all like in a program that lived in me. And like once I realized that, I'm like, oh, I'm creating this from this weird old thing. Okay, I don't have to run away from this. I can help it, set it free.
And that's a key understanding, awareness to self-responsibility, because you sat in it. You maybe didn't have a choice in it because you were 3 when you learned this programming, but you still chose it, whether you were 3 and didn't have the mind to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that now you can look at it with your adult mind or your adult hat on and now choose differently again if it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So that's the whole process of awakening right there, is looking at everything that you're doing and finding out the why with an adult mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to find a lot of fucked up shit in there.
That seems to be the case.
And forgiveness, because we all did it. Patrick had those same things. You had those same things. I had those same things. And they were all mixed up with our parents' shit and all this kind of stuff. And you can't, there was no choice. You chose it to be in, grow up in those circumstances and families and all that. So you got to take that level of responsibility. But as your conscious mind being able to say what's good or bad, you had no choice.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Mm-hmm.
always forgiveness in that, because you were brainwashed, you were told, you were taught, you were given, you were forced.
Yeah, yeah. I had experience. I think trigger, I guess, to this current state I'm in, it was a lot of self-punishment and perfectionism. I had to deal with a lot of that. So, like,
And how imperfectly perfect we are.
yeah, yeah.
That's what makes Anya.
Yeah, but it's just like, that mean girl voice or that mean boy voice that's like, you piece of shit, like what the fuck, like you bully your own self.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild when you actually hear yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you wouldn't talk to your, friend like that.
And who's more likely to call you a piece of trash than yourself?
Yeah.
People won't outwardly say that, but they'll make you feel like one
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah.
And it's only you that accepted it. So did you make mistakes and all that? Not ones that you could have understood or you thought they were right? And even if you made a mistake, is there really any mistakes there? It's all just learning.
Right. How many
Exactly.
lessons came from all those mistakes, right?
Exactly.
Like that's that meme that floats around Facebook. The master has failed more times than the student has even tried. And that is fully accurate.
Yeah.
And the master feels pulverized and heart wide open.
Well, exactly.
The guy over and over.
The guy who's sitting there and he's got all this wisdom and he's calm, he's got the answers and everything. He's had his ass handed to him many, many, many times to get to that point.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and that's just the game. We choose whatever that ass handing is, but that is the game.
yeah.
And you have no idea underneath what that common exterior is. It's like, oh fuck, oh that's hitting me in these spaces. But if you choose to smile and you don't choose to trigger, then you have self-awareness and you walk back and you say, holy fuck, why did that hurt? Why did it sting so much? And then eventually that thing won't even come to attack you anymore, because you've now dealt with what drew it into your experience so that you could learn from.
Well, and if you go back and analyze all those points, you'll see all the steps that led you to where you are, and things that where you have something you have now that you really enjoy, that you really wanted, that you never thought you could have, happened because of all those steps that blew your mind and made no sense at the time, right? Which is why you have to just trust and go with the flow, and know that you're leading yourself to where you want to go.
Yeah. It makes so much sense why things didn't work out. It makes so much sense now. But like, you had to go through that nasty shit to like look back and be like, oh,
You gotta go through hell to get to heaven, right? That's the joke.
You're nailed to that cross more times than you know, and then afterwards you're looking at it and saying, oh thank God, that's as far as it went. It could have got even worse, right?
Yeah.
Don't say that, because you'll fulfill that prophecy yourself with those words. As I've learned, I don't say that anymore, because you'll make it happen.
We all know we did it so many fucking times and it hurt. It wanted to kill us and we felt so broken. That's very normal in all of this. The thing that we have to really truly understand to really understand the human experience is we are infinite beings, part of God, that have sectioned off from God to further the experience of having a human experience. So when you start understanding multiverse theory and all these kind of things, I could have said 30 different words next, and we've lived every single one of them to their culmination to see what was happening. But the things that we choose to happen in our life, we come with a plan, with the contracts, with all these things to have these experiences. Sometimes it's a rape, sometimes it's bad parents, sometimes it's wounds and all these things. And they're the very things that shape us and twist our reality and stop us from having good experiences. Because if we had good experiences from the moment we were born, we'd be just these infinite beings of light that shine all the time and are happy. And we chose different. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, no, that makes, yeah, it would be heaven. It would be pure heaven and those higher dimensions down here.
And we're moving to that. Without the awareness of dark, light, good, bad, and an understanding of why they hurt in all their different ways or feel good in different ways, we would really not know what bliss was if we hadn't felt the exact opposite, like torture and struggle and pain. And we're coming through tens of thousands of years, which has been a lot of struggle and pain and control and darkness and people getting murdered and abuses and all this kind of stuff. We are on that tipping point, just crossing over the top to where we're going to all feel all the bliss. The human experience was allowed to go to this depth and this level of control so that all the people and the parts of God could see the depth of all the negatives.
Well, and so that we would appreciate the positives when we get there. Because my big picture that I've seen is this planet's been given paradise many times, and then with our curiosity, we start our downward spiral to the darkness because we're curious about it. So this time we went backwards, and we started with the darkness and went as far down as we could, and then come up to the light. And now we'll appreciate it.
That wasn't a complete failure of the human experience. There was a lot of darkness that was still mixed in the human experience that the universe allowed to continue, that influenced, like Lemuria and Atlantis and all these technologies and stuff that broke down. There was a dark side that was underneath that nobody acknowledged, nobody explored. We've been now forced to look at all the dark shit. That's why it's so seethingly painful this time, because we went through those cycles over and over and over again and fucked them up because we hadn't understood the depth.
Well, right, exactly. Like I was always really attached to Lemuria, and it was always, all of these good, positive stories. And I found this girl who does all these videos of it, and it just shows you the downfall of it. And they had their own downfall too. It wasn't this perfect, amazing light society that, got handed to their ass kicked by the bad Atlanteans and then they collapsed. No, they weren't victims. That's our mentality, thinking that they got themselves down through their own curiosity and wondering about the dark and the experiences of separation as well. They earned what happened to them, just like Atlantis did. But we're collectively all dealing with that, combining it all together, learning it all, and we're going to have the new light. I'm just trying to find the name of the girl because her videos are amazing.
Well, and it's key that we understand this. That's why it's so seethingly painful. We are looking at every bit of our darkness before we shift over. And that darkness that's in our communities, in our gurus, in our government and laws is all have to be cleaned. So it's not like...
Young.
Go ahead. What's the name?
Gigi Young, G-I-G-I, Young, Y-O-U-N-G. She does some of these amazing videos on Lemurian and talks about the dark side of it. Mm-hmm. And it was a real eye-opener because for me, I was always tied to it and loved Lemuria. And then she gives all these details. I guess, I don't know how she got them, but they resonated and it's amazing. So,
but there was a lot of dark alien forces that were involved that have been on this planet since the very beginning.
Well, right, exactly. And then there's the masculine influence from when Mars got their ass kicked, and then the planet that used to be the asteroid when they had their ass handed to them for whatever, and then their souls all those souls just kept shuffling the earth, and Earth just kept taking them all on, which is why we're just such a smorgasbord of everything.
So ultimately, now understand that we're here to have this piece of reality. We're here with a purpose to create from our wounds and the things that we had to learn. We're going to teach from those things afterwards. I was telling Patrice this earlier. We all are a unique vibration in this world. Anya is a girl in a blue shirt with blonde hair and earphones, and Paul's in a white shirt. We all have a bunch of shit that we went through, and we have the way out in our vibration now. And we're positive from it. Oh, I could have been raped. I could have been child abused or whatever. And I worked through those. And now I have the medicine for the people around me for the same. And literally by seeing us on these videos, by walking in Anya's vibration or going past her auric field in this grocery store or whatever, the people that are ready, her example is there waiting for them to accept it, have a talk with you, just touch your arm, and you can give that medicine, that vibration, that clarity to them, and then they can implement it in their own world. It doesn't mean that instantly they're healed and it's all fixed, but now all of a sudden that question of, oh, my sister's this way or my nephew's this way or whatever, you figured some of that stuff out and that energy goes to them. So I feel light workers hold unique vibrations, and I feel, I've talked about this before, where I stand in front of stadiums of 100,000 people and talking about unconditional love. I'm giving a vibrational experience of who I am by talking about the things I went through, my vulnerabilities, the hard things, the really awful things. And then people know they're not alone, and they now know that they can take that next step because there's somebody in this world. You literally give them permission to heal because they're not broken, they're not bad, they're just like you. And you somehow got through it, and you're shining and you're happy and you're positive, and they're like, fuck, I have hope again. That's a massive thing for one person to walk around in the world to do. You can do it at the grocery store. You can do it by being in a community. You can do it on lives like this, and how many people watch a live each time? Because we are living, even though somebody at one point told us we were broken or we were bad or we were doing something wrong, or we were living a light inside of us because we know there's better, and there's always better, and we're getting better every day, and we don't got it all figured out by any extent of the imagination. We're having all the pains and aches, but I'd far prefer to talk about it and have a couple hundred people say, holy fuck, yeah, you finally told me that I'm not alone. And because that's what we came here to do, and to shine it, to have our best life, to attract lovers, to attract beautiful business partners, to attract new opportunities, tons of abundance, is all just one connection of a person away. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, geez, I met this guy and he's got a big show, and I can go on there and people find me and I learn more. Or we just posted here and one person watches the video and says, fuck, I got to go talk to Anya. She's like exactly like me, and that she knows something that I don't. Or I got to talk to Patrick. Just by putting ourselves out there and saying that there's better. I want to welcome as many people into my reality as possible. Living your light is my implementation of reality. It's us talking about shit that's icky and messy and getting out from under it, and then building a community of self-responsibility, accountability, vulnerability, so that everybody can talk. And then all of a sudden, when you're out of that, people can call you on it and say, hey, you're not being self-responsible. Just hold on, calm down, take a breath. And we all want to be self-responsible. So how about if you looked at it this way? And all of a sudden it's like, holy fuck, I'm not a victim anymore and I'm being self-responsible. That's only 3 little principles of living your life by that you could walk around with a whole bunch of other people, and you would change their life every day just by calling them or being a mirror or saying, that's not feeling self-responsible, or that's not very vulnerable. But we don't have that place yet. And we're creating it. We're doing it right here. We're calling ourselves on each of our own things, and it's coming. It's here for us. So we got a new reality right here. A lot of people don't I won't even say that. Some people haven't found us yet, but they're getting there. We keep shining, and we have confidence that we've done something amazing. We have, because we've all worked through all this shit.
They're going to feel our energy, so.
Absolutely. We're not better. We just fucking been there, done that on all the stuff, and we just chose different. It's not like I'm magic and I'm judging anybody. No, let's talk about it, because fuck, there's still parts of me that are still low and uncomfortable and unhappy. But I'll tell you firsthand that it's happening, and I don't know why. And fuck, I feel like the world's beating me up most days but I still shine. To be angry, to be sad, to let the darkness win inside of me is a failure to me. So That's what a new reality is, everybody, is going through all of it and just choosing different, even though the outside may not be the same, but choosing on the inside that it's different. And that's why there's a smile on each one of these faces. We know, despite getting beat to shit every single other day of the week, that there's something better, and we're here to hold up a new energy, a new vibration, a new space. And nobody can take that away from us. We might get down one day and have to go into our cocoon or whatever, but we wake up the next day and say, staying in that shit ain't helping anybody. And that's a new reality.
Yeah. And when you have that high vibration, you can pick whatever arbitrary number you want, but you have the same energy as 1,000 people that are out there putting negative energy, as the one light worker shining its light, being positive, holding space for everybody else. Whatever the number is you want to choose, it has a massive effect on the world. So that's all you need to do. You don't even need to, if you don't feel called to do these lives, don't. You want to do memes, you want to do this, do whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you feel called for. But shine your light, live your truth, be authentic, and just you'll change the world.
But it's so important to understand, why has only 3 to 5% of the world woken up and have gifts and understanding and empathy? Because exactly what Patrick said, one of us cleans up 1,000 people's worth of energy just by us being positive. We're anchoring it. We had to bring it and create this energy of possibility for everybody else. And then everybody else is going to look at us and say, okay, they're doing it. I can do this. Like, it's going to be hard.
Well, that's why we're all so far apart. Like, all the people that I want to hang out with most in the world, fucking scattered around the globe. I can't drive. There's nobody locally that I can get in a car and say, oh man, I can't wait to visit this person. Oh, they're fucking hours away in a car, hours away in a plane. It sucks.
Can you imagine if every day we were sitting as a panel in front of each other and we were giving hugs and we were smiling and patting each other on the back? The energy would be so different and so beautiful. But that's not what the world's chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. But the anchors had to be there. I don't know where it is where you are. Calgary is the most heavy oil, redneck, whatever you want to call it, city. And I'm just like feeling crushed some days. Wow. And there's a certain amount of us that are pulling the energy up or whatever, but there's a lot of people that have really negative attitudes. There's lots of drug abuse and other things in this area. And I just question some days. It's like, well, LA can't be much better in some regards, in some parts of it as well, right?
Everyone's happy and vegan here.
Nice. I like
don't think so, but the ones she knows sure are. LA's got some heavy energy. I've been there, but it's by the ocean and a few other things, which gives it a lot.
But that could be what your version of LA was. That's not what she attracts into her life, right? So, because I've told that when I was still working at Coca-Cola, and I would go into a customer, and I would have another person would say, "Oh, I went in and I talked to the person, they were an asshole," and I'm just like, "Okay, well, whatever." And I would go in and I would talk to the same person, do the same delivery, and have a completely different experience, and go back and say to them, like, no, you make your own reality. So if you had a shitty experience with that guy, it's because you're an asshole and you're putting in a bad vibration. Change your vibration, and what you're getting back is going to be different. Because I would go into the same stores and the same people and have a totally different experience with everybody that I dealt with. So.
Mm-hmm. And is Disneyland truly the happiest place on earth?
On mushrooms, it could be.
That's part of my experience. Yeah. I went to Disneyland and it was long lines and grumpy people. So.
And let's not even get on about all the other seedy underbelly, MK Ultra child abuse crap that actually goes on behind the scenes.
Oh God.
Shit. It is
old world.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay, we're in our last 5 minutes here. So any closing comments from either of you? Go ahead. Popcorn stuff.
Just shine your light, and if you ever need help, reach out to one of us, and we'll be happy to share our experience with you. And know you're not alone. There's a ton of us that have struggled through all this crap, and if we can't help you, somebody out there will. Just don't lose hope. Know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how the outside world looks, it is getting better. It is not getting worse.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing to remember.
It is getting better.
Yeah. I would just also say to know what you truly desire, not be afraid of it, and that it's yours. Anything that you want in this magical, abundant universe is here for you. You just have to tap in to that same frequency.
Beautiful.
Exactly. Because everything already exists. You just have to
Yes.
connect to it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's all inside. It's an inside job. It is really, I could tell you that, like, the external is just the mirror.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
And can I ask this just so that people know that it's a little tricky, but it's not all working out for you right now, is it? Like you're hoping for the future, but some of it isn't ready to show up yet, and just to be okay with that, because that's the hardest thing for me. Is so many times I tried and I thought I failed, but the place to have fertile soil isn't quite here yet. Do you agree?
And all those failures are helping teach tolerance and surrender and patience and trusting in the flow and knowing that it'll happen and not losing hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gag on that, but I agree.
Yeah.
Well, of course, yeah. It's a tough pill to swallow for sure. So, but it's a universal truth for sure.
Anything else you wanted to share, Anya?
No. How about you?
It's been really hard for the last little while because I have put a lot of hope in world leaders, the Trumps, the General Flynns, and all these people that are supposedly out there that are going to make this new reality for me. But I've come to a really deep conclusion that the new reality that they're bringing is for the three-dimensional people. It's the bridge zone that gets us out of the control. But it's really people like us that are seeing positive, want a new world, create new rules, new societies. Those are the people that are really building the world. I see people that are wanting massive change in the world and running in new ways, as with one foot in a kind of a 5D reality, which is our reality, and we're sharing it and saying we agree. But I also see us with our hands reaching out, that the people, like I'm not waiting anymore for Trump and them to show up. I've been disappointed for so many times. I'm creating that world. Living Your Light exists as a community. These lives are existing as a community. I'm going through and doing the work to bridge myself over to that every single day. So trust that a new reality is here. It may not be this savior thing where QFS and Jasara show up tomorrow and all my money problems are gone or whatever. No, I'm doing this with you three, or with us three to start, and I know a whole bunch more. But I can't put this word on it and say, oh, whenever they pull the switch or whenever this happens or whatever, because it's just killing me slowly over time. So now here's the reality. Come join me. Come have a beautiful conversation with me. Come have one with Anya. Come have with Patrick. We've got our information. I'll put the Living Your Light stuff in the bottom here. That's the new reality. That's a master timeline. That's the place where the change is going to happen. Those other things got to exist in an old reality and an old foundation for a little while, and it's not going to feel really great. Yeah, maybe you get some money and maybe jobs are less or whatever, but what you really want is these new perspectives, these new places, this new reality, tearing down all the old symbols and beliefs. And then you sit in that freedom because you're choosing for you in every moment. You're choosing what feels best in your heart, in your body, in your brain, and outside doesn't allow that. It's like, you better fit in. You're part of the 97% or whatever. No, I don't want to be part of the 97%. I want to be part of the 3% that's crazy, but smiles every day and has a lot of really hard conversations, but I smile afterwards and they thank me. It might not be that day. It might be a year later or whatever, but it's like, holy fuck, you held my feet to the fire. Like, Patrick, thank God we had that really hard conversation. I want to tell you to fuck off, because that's a person that's telling me my truth, is mirroring to me. You're not helping me in any way, shape, or form, lying to me and saying, oh, you're fine with all that and you're a really rounded person. No, fuck. It's like, is it hurting you or helping? It's hurting me. I made a choice. Hardest choice. I still say my divorce was harder, but that was not fun. And I thank you for that. So how many people do you know that can do that to you, for you? That's a real friend, a real person in high vibration. And Anya standing there when I was triggered and we're talking about stuff, and she sat there and she smiled and she said her truth, not what I wanted to hear, but she did. It was all good. So that's a new reality. You see it and witness it every day watching these lives with us. And it's a miracle. It's beautiful. There's nothing hard or scary or angry about it. It's just is. And if you don't talk about it, who's going to talk about it? And we both lose. So that's why Roundtable's on reality. We're trying to create a new reality. We're trying to show why we see a different perspective, and some of it'll sink in or be as truth. Some of it'll like trigger the shit out of you, and other bits will be just later processing. And that's how you wake up, a little bit at a time. You can't sand your whole forehead off and take all the thoughts and the brain shit out. You got to take a little bit off at a time, or else it's a bloodbath. So thank you both. It's been amazing. We covered some pretty rocky ground, and I love you both for that. So thank you. Cool. Well, we will resume on Thursday with our next one. I don't know what the topic is. I'd always love to have somebody give us topics. We just kind of bat one around, and at the last second we come up with one. And I think this was Patrick. So thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome, brother.
Cool. Well, have fun.
You guys have a great day,
everybody.
and we'll see everybody on Thursday.
Sounds good. See you soon.
Love you all.